So let's talk a little bit about one of the effects that I created for this. Now I'm not going to worry about the material just yet. We'll do that in the next video. But I just want to talk about how I use modifiers to do look development. Generally, I like all these really kind of crazy effects, and I like doing stuff as procedurally as possible. So I generally just go in and start messing around with modifiers and seeing how I can get the end result. Now, I'm just going to set my origin here so I just have this object I can focus on. So how I came to the effect that I ended up using is, for example, the first thing I start with is sort of have a look at the topology of the model. So in this case, it's sort of interesting topology, but I want a little bit more because I want these polygons to be able to split up and do things. And that's why the modifier stack for look development is really, really fun, and for sort of abstract animations. So one of the first things I'll do is I'll add a triangulate, and you'll see we have a lot more interesting patterns and things going on. And I switch between the regular solid view and the, just going to turn off the matte cap here, and the wireframe view quite a bit, because when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I'm actually thinking more about how the polygons are and how I can use some of these lines and things as, I guess, as topology to use for the effect itself. So with that triangulate, I'm going to add an edge split. Now what this is going to do is it's going to split up all these polygons, and we still can't really see anything going on. But if you add a smooth modifier on top of this, you'll see that now all of these split up together. So that's really, really cool and really nice, and gives you some really interesting effects. So if you want to animate and a sort of things appearing from nowhere, you could do it like this and just animate the smooth and have the whole thing appear from nothing. So with that done, I sort of want to be able to control where this is happening, as you saw in the final video. So this appears as the camera passes by, and we'll have a look at how to actually create that effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a vertex weight mix, pop this up here, and I like to unwrap this first very quickly so I can use it for shading after. So I usually just use the Smart UV Project and very quickly do this. Now, if you're doing this and you're getting really close up with a lot of these objects, you'll want to go in and unwrap this properly. But I need a first UV map, which is just going to be my regular UVs, and I'm going to use a second UV map as a mask. And why I'm doing this will become clear quite quickly. Again, I'm going to switch to my trackball movement so I can move the object around in 3D space a lot easier, and I'm not constrained to that one axis, or those two axes on the turntable movement. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create that second UV, and I'm going to do this by just looking at the object, hitting 5 on the numpad so I'm in isometric view. And as I'm sort of looking at it from one side, go into edit mode, hit the U key to unwrap, and I'm just going to project from view. I use the project from view bounds. So if we go have a look at the unwrapped image now, or at the unwrap of the object, you can see these UVs, I wouldn't really use them for texturing or anything, but these are really easy to use with a mask. So the next thing I'm going to need is a vertex group, and now that I've got this set up, you'll see exactly what's going to happen. So when I go back to the vertex weight edit, what I can do, and it looks like I've added the wrong one. I want the vertex weight edit. There we go. I'm going to move this up to the top of the modifier stack. And I'm going to use the mask vertex group that I just created. So there's nothing in this, but with this vertex weight edit, we're actually going to be able to use a texture to control which of the vertices are being added into this vertex group. So the next thing I'm going to do is just add in a texture. I'm going to call this mask effects, for example, and I want to use the UV coordinates, and I want to use the mask UV. So that way, when I'm actually using a blend type of image, the cool thing is we can now use this because we have our UVs set up like this. The mask can actually run horizontally along the UVs that we set up, which is awesome. Now, to get this working, we need to add a little bit of trickery. the group add, we want to make sure that we're adding everything in, and we're using this group add threshold to make sure that everything that is in one portion of the image, in either the dark or the light portion of the image, is being used to affect everything. Now the second thing we need to do before we see this happening is add in the mask vertex group to our smooth modifier. So we're using, basically what we're doing is we're using this blend texture to add vertices into that mask vertex group, and then we're going to use that mask vertex group to derive the smooth modifier. So nothing much is happening right now, and the reason for that is I still have to mess with my fall off. Now I've noticed if I flip this custom curve, what I can do, there we go, is you can already start to see the effect of what's going on. So everything in our blend that is sort of going towards black isn't affecting the smooth, and everything that is white is actually affecting the smooth. So we're now successfully adding these vertices into the vertex group with a bit of a fall off that we can animate to derive this smooth modifier. This is a really cool trick, especially if I go to colors and then ramp. What we can do is I'm just going to set the alpha of the black portion to 100%. So now we just have a black and white ramp. It's still the same blend, but if I start moving these around, you'll see the object starts appearing as the vertices start getting added into the vertex group, or actually subtracted from the vertex group, I should say, because all the ones that are in there are being smooth and are being pulled apart. So if we add the smooth in and we just hit the repeat a couple of times, then we can go back to this ramp and we could actually animate that. And you can see as I'm moving this in, what I would do is I'm just going to see where my end frame is and do this for 120 frames. So for the first frame, I'm going to keyframe the position here. So let's say I want a part of this being done, and you could go into your camera view to see what's going on. So there we go. I'm going to add in 2 keyframes for the black and white positions of the mask. Then I'm going to hit Shift right arrow to go to the end of my timeline and move this white one up, move the black one up. There we go. And with that done, if I play this now, you'll see that the object actually starts appearing. You'll see the polygons start swelling up and becoming larger. So that's the first part of the effect. And the cool thing is, now that we've set that, that mask up, we can start doing some really, really cool things with it. I didn't mean to hit render, my apologies, there we go. So now we can start affecting other things as well, which means, let's say we add in some extra stuff here. And the reason these are sort of popping in quite a bit is because our, looks like we haven't keyframed something properly, so there's something going wrong. Let's just fix that. Our original black tab here didn't have a keyframe, so we'll have to hit the I key. Let's see what's going on. And it looks like we're gonna have to flip those around. Go back to the beginning. There we go. Hit I on the position here, and we're going to hit I on the position here. There we go. So now just have a look as we scroll through. There we go. That's what we needed. So I made a little mistake there. So now you can see this is exactly the same as the effect that was used in the final shot. So you can have all this stuff appearing, which is really cool. And I'm going to turn off the depth of field as well, so you can see it happening a little bit better. So that's it. We've set up a dynamic mask now for our effect to appear with. But now that we have that vertex group, we could use it with all kinds of other modifiers. So I'm going to turn off that smooth modifier for a second. I'm going to add in a displace modifier. And now if we hit the mask vertex group, I'm going to set the mid-level to 0 so we can just control the strength linearly going from the inside out. There we go. You can see the same thing can be done with that displace texture. So we can use this for all kinds of really cool effects. So when combining these, you can see it sort of pulls in and forms the object and does some really interesting things. Again, we can add even more stuff onto this, and I know it'll start getting really, really slow when I add this wireframe. I'm going to turn off this even thickness for a second and turn on the relative thickness. So the thickness of the wireframe is actually dependent on the length of the edge that it's meshing. And turn on boundaries, so we get nice full, like a full polygon, I guess, around, or a full cube or sphere, if you want to call it that, around the edges. I'll turn off Replace Original. And again, I'm going to use this mask as well. So what you can see now, if I set this size up a little bit, I'm just going to go a little bit extreme. That's maybe too extreme. But what you can see is that wireframe sort of disappears as well as the mask is being formed. So if I turn off the displace and the smooth for just a second, you can see this wireframe is quite huge, but as the mask moves along the object, you can see the same thing happening. The wireframe disappears, it collapses in on itself. And it's the combination of these three modifiers now that gives us a really interesting result. So again, if I go back into my rendered view, you see you have all this polygon trash that is coming together and forming some really interesting things. And because it's all done using the modifier stack, we can actually set the repeat of the smooth a little bit higher. And yeah, it's a little slow, but you know, it's not really the end of the world. Again, you could turn off the wireframe, for example, so your viewport speeds up a little bit so you can see what's happening still. So there you go. That's one really interesting way to do one of these effects. And in the technique videos, I'll have more interesting sort of combinations of modifiers. But I just want to show you how I did it for this video specifically. So.